My name is Adriane. I'm from Johnstown, Pennsylvania, and I served in the military in the United States Army from approximately 1979 through 1984, almost 1985. I would identify as gay. Identifying as lesbian in the military was just not something that you did at that point in time. At that time, we were asked, are you a homosexual? That was asked on all the forms that we had to sign and swear to. It was very difficult, actually, having been to Catholic school and answering somewhat dishonestly. I was discharged from the military under something called a Chapter 15. Chapter 15 at that time, which was prior to Don't Ask, Don't Tell, basically said that if you engaged in homosexual acts, that you were not incompatible with military service. My discharge, this is my discharge, but it does say at the very bottom that I was discharged because I attempted to engage in, or solicited another to engage in homosexual acts. While I received an honorable discharge because the discharge had to be based on my character of service, which was exemplary, it was very, very difficult to be discharged under a Chapter 15 and try to find employment. In order to have been discharged under this sort of a discharge in the United States military, there was an investigation, which we called at that time a witch hunt. This is where people were intimidated into speaking about their friends and coworkers and trying to divulge their private, personal status. There were people who didn't make it out of these witch hunts alive. They committed suicide because of their sexual orientation and for no other reason. They were good troops. They were very good troops who succumbed to what they put us through at that time. How my discharge has been affected my latter life is that not so much the piece of paper that I carry around with me, but the memories of friends that I lost, of people who were dear to me that could no longer associate with me for fear of being dragged into it. There are a lot of things that transpired during that period of time that were extremely difficult and are now still extremely difficult to discuss. Being LGBTQ in the military when I was in was not something that was discussed. People may have known, but it really had no bearing on who we were as soldiers. As long as someone had my back and I had theirs, that's all that mattered. And I think that's all that ever matters in the military, that you need to trust one another, you need to have each other's back. And that's the most important thing. But when someone turns and oppresses based upon their, whatever it may be, beliefs, whether they be religious or political, that has no place in a foxhole. That has no place on the battlefield. We have to support each other. And as I said before, we all bleed red. And those persons who went into the military service without a draft, writing a blank check for their country, should be given the benefit of the doubt that that's what they're there for, to give their life for their country. It was extremely difficult to be a woman, let alone a lesbian. But I will say that the military now is becoming younger. It's no longer the club that it used to be. You still have people that have their ideologies and attempt to force them on other people. But for the most part, I think the military is changing with society. And as society changes and broadens its perspective and understanding of other people, it's becoming much more accepting that we all just have a job to do. Let us do it. But what I'd like to see the VA do is maybe some more classes. I think that they could stand to have more classes. And also going back to the military aspect, I think that you need to look at the on-post Army hospitals. They need to be safe places for LGBT. And in terms of female services, female veteran and regular Army or service providing to women specifically, there needs to be a modicum of respect for other orientations other than straight. It was extremely difficult, and I wish that I could impress upon people that at the tender ages of teens and early 20s, we all wanted to just serve our country, and we didn't expect the treatment that we received, particularly in terms of interrogations and what was followed. So I think that for many of us, we live with the scars of not necessarily battle, but we have battle wounds, some of which may never heal. They've impacted our relationships with others. They've impacted the way that we see the world. And sometimes it's very difficult to manage and negotiate and navigate. But we understand that that point in time, way back when we wrote a check, and it was a blank check, that we all will support opinions and this country and the people who live in it. So I just would want to say that for the American people to understand, we all bleed red.